All right, let's dive in. Today, we're jumping into one of the most intense, dramatic, and pivotal chapters in the entire Bible, Matthew chapter 26. Seriously, this thing is packed. It's moving fast, it's full of prophecy, human failure, and this incredible divine purpose running through it all. So let's break it down together.
So how are we going to tackle this? Well, we're going to follow the story as it unfolds. First up, a prophecy that sets two very different plans on a collision course. Then we'll see this completely unexpected, beautiful gift. From there, we'll get into the gravity of the Last Supper, feel the anguish in the garden, and then watch the high drama of a trial and a denial. And all of this is going to lead us to some really powerful lessons for today.
All right, let's get right into it. The story kicks off with this incredible tension. You've got two very different plans being set in motion at the exact same time. One is divine, and the other is a very human conspiracy.
So check this out, because this is where the tension really starts. On one hand, you have Jesus, totally in control, calmly telling his disciples, hey, in 2 days it's Passover, and that's when I'll be crucified. He's not just predicting that he'll die, but when. Meanwhile, the religious leaders are plotting the exact same thing, but they're saying, whatever we do, we can't do it during the feast. There are too many people, it'll cause a riot. You can already see whose plan is going to win out here.
So we go from this, high-level conspiracy to zooming right in to a really intimate dinner party in a town called Bethany. And it's here that this unexpected interruption just brilliantly shows the clash between selfless love and cold, calculated greed.
Right in the middle of dinner, this unnamed woman comes up to Jesus and does something absolutely stunning. She takes this flask of incredibly expensive perfume, and we're talking something that was probably worth a full year's wages for a normal worker, and she just pours the entire thing over his head, an act of pure, extravagant worship.
Well, the disciples see this, and they are not happy. They're practically indignant, saying what a total waste of money. Why wasn't this sold? The money could have gone to the poor. And on any other day, they might have a point, but this was not any other day. But Jesus, he just cuts right through the criticism. He defends her, and he reveals this deep, profound meaning in what she's done. He says she has anointed his body for his burial. You see, while the disciples were focused on the practical, she somehow understood the eternal significance of the moment. And what an honor, right? He says her story is going to be part of the story forever. And this is just a gut punch. The contrast here is so stark, it's almost hard to read. As this woman is giving this priceless, extravagant gift out of pure love, one of Jesus' own inner circle, Judas, slips away, and he goes to the chief priests and asks this chilling question, what are you willing to give me if I betray him to you? And he settles for 30 pieces of silver, which, by the way, was the going price for a slave in the Old Testament, the value of a year's wages versus the price of a slave. It's just, wow. Okay, so from that jarring moment, we move into one of the most sacred and foundational moments in the entire story, the Last Supper. Jesus takes this ancient Passover meal, which was all about remembering Israel's freedom from slavery, and he gives it a completely new, profound meaning. First, he takes the bread, he blesses it, breaks it, something they've done 1,000 times. But then he says something that changes everything. Take, eat, for this is my body. He's tying this simple piece of bread to his own body, which he knows is about to be broken for them. Then he does the same with the cup of wine. He calls it his blood, the blood of the covenant. Now, a covenant, you can think of it like a super serious binding treaty. For centuries, God's covenant with his people was sealed with animal sacrifices. Jesus is basically saying, that's all done. A new agreement, a new relationship with God is starting right now, and it's not going to be sealed with the blood of animals, but with my own life, poured out so that sins can be forgiven. And just like that, the mood completely changes. We go from the quiet intimacy of that upper room to the crushing loneliness of a garden called Gethsemane. And it's here we get a raw look at Jesus' anguish as the weight of what's coming really starts to press in. This is so raw, so human. In the garden, Jesus is in absolute distress. He prays, asking his Father if this cup, this symbol of all the suffering he's about to endure, can be taken away. It's this incredibly honest plea. But in the very same breath, he completely submits, saying, nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And right here, you see this huge gap between Jesus' resolve and our human weakness. While he is going through this cosmic struggle, what are his best friends doing? His inner circle.
He just asks them to stay awake and pray with him for 1 hour. Just one. But they can't do it. They fall asleep, leaving him to face this all alone. Okay, now the pace just picks up like crazy. The story starts cutting back and forth, almost like a movie with a split screen. On one side, you've got Jesus on trial, standing with this quiet authority. On the other side, in the courtyard, his most outspoken disciple, Peter, is just completely falling apart. Before the high priest, Jesus says almost nothing. They throw all these false accusations at him, and he's just silent. Until the high priest puts him under a holy oath and demands an answer. Are you the Christ, the Son of God? And then, boom. Jesus not only says yes, but he makes this incredible declaration about who he is and the authority he holds. And that's all they need to hear to call it blasphemy. Meanwhile, just a few feet away in the courtyard, Peter is facing his own kind of trial. It's not a courtroom, it's just a bunch of people standing around a fire trying to stay warm. And they start recognizing him. Hey, weren't you at that Jesus guy? 3 different times, someone calls him out. And 3 different times, Peter denies it. He denies even knowing Jesus, and each denial gets more intense until he's actually cursing to prove he's telling the truth. And then it happens. Just as Jesus predicted, a rooster crows. That sound just cuts through the air and it breaks him. The memory of Jesus' words comes flooding back, and he just goes outside and weeps bitterly, absolutely crushed. Okay, wow, that was a lot. So after all that drama, all that pain and betrayal, what are we supposed to do with this story? Because it isn't just ancient history, right? This chapter is packed with timeless truths about faith, about our own failures, and about God's purpose through it all. So what can we take away? Well, here are 4 big things. First, that woman with the perfume. She shows us that true worship can be extravagant, costly, and yeah, other people might not get it. Second, Jesus in the garden teaches us that it's okay to be honest with God about our pain while still trusting his plan. Third, the disciples falling asleep. That's a powerful reminder that we're all human. We can have the best intentions and still fall short. And finally, Peter. His bitter weeping shows us that failure is never the final word. It can be the very beginning of a powerful, life-changing repentance.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Matthew 26. This raw, honest story doesn't just tell us what happened 2,000 years ago. It kind of holds up a mirror to our own lives, and it leaves us with a pretty deep question to think about. When you face your own moments of pressure, how does your story reflect these same themes of failure, of faithfulness, and ultimately, of forgiveness?